Hello, hello, hello. How are you all today? What a beautiful evening it is out there. Hoping to get out and take a little walk at the end of this, but I'm delighted to be with you all. Hello, Sharona. I'm delighted to be with you all and to do some tapping tonight. As I mentioned in my post, or I think I did, it's been a pretty wild ride for a lot of us the last couple of weeks. And I just was feeling called to jump on and do some tapping. Thank you to everyone who let me know what's up for them and what they would like to tap on. It's a little bit all over the place. So I'm not exactly sure how we're going to bring this all together, but we're going to. The spirit always comes through and allows for a miraculous kind of tapping script to just unfold. So I'm gonna just read actually from, I have my computer on behind me, and I'm just gonna read what people commented about that they would hope to tap on. And so from the list that people gave me, as I said, I'm gonna try to integrate as much as I can and create a script that's going to relate to the greatest number of people. So we've got self-esteem, learning to trust in love again, and that's from Linda. I'm thinking she means to love another person again, and although that can mean to learn to love ourselves again, or maybe for the first time. We've got trust and letting go. And certainly learning to love is about trust as well. Sheila wanted to tap on her daughter's 21st birthday. I'm not sure exactly what the issue is with that. So I think we're just going to hold that one. Issues with heights and bridges, healing my liver so I can absorb nutrients, doing a detox, emotions of fear and rage, anger, sadness, depression. That's a lot of different emotions, obviously, to be touching on. And blockages to coming out publicly and actually globally with your divine calling, with the powerful work. This is from Rosa in particular, that she feels called to do in the world, and her fears about coming out and doing that. So as I just read that list, the things that sort of naturally move together for me are the self-esteem, trust in self and trust in others, and fears around being seen. And perhaps, the sadness around not being able to be fully seen, not being able to feel like you can be yourself in the world and bring your gifts into the world without some kind of negative repercussions. So I don't see any of the folks who made their suggestions on the Facebook post here yet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to check one more place. Hold on, I'm sorry, I'm kind of like going sideways on you here. Okay, so I'm just going to do a brief introduction to tapping because I'm not sure if those of you who are here are tappers, have any idea what it is. So I'll just do a brief introduction, and hi Rosa, good, and just take a few more minutes to let people get on and gather. Sometimes, it takes people a few minutes to get here. And then I am just going to create a tapping script. Thank you, Kimberly. A tapping script from the things that people have said. So if you don't know me very well, I've been a tapper for 14 years. I came into tapping after, for about 10 years before that, having been on a very sort of focused journey of finding ways to work with my clients that would go deeper than just, at the time, traditional talk therapy. I was fairly new in the therapy world and was finding myself, hi Lorraine, Susan, Jumana, I was finding myself sort of frustrated and not really knowing where to go with people in the more traditional talk therapy model. And so in about 1998, believe it or not, I started really searching for other ways to work with clients that would allow me to go deeper with them. Many of my clients were women who had trauma history. You know, I think we all have some trauma history, but more significant, what you think of was more significant trauma history. And I didn't feel as though I was serving them in the best way. And that was frustrating for me. And I wasn't sure I could continue in the work if I couldn't find a way to make it more satisfying and transformational for them or for me. So it took me on quite a journey. Starting in 1998 was the first sort of energy healing class I took, and that was in therapeutic touch. From there, I moved on to Reiki, and then probably 6 or 7 other energy healing modalities, DNA activations, and all kinds of things that it doesn't really matter what the name of them are. Ultimately, it's all healing work with your energy field. Also in that period of time, I was called to ministry, and I did a 2-year program called through the Seminary of Spiritual Peacemaking. So I'm an ordained minister of spiritual peacemaking. And I brought all of those aspects of all of those things into my practice. And it was very, very helpful to be able to talk to people about energy, to have more conversations about spirituality and metaphysics and, you know, how energy worked and all of that. However, I still had not found something that felt like it was appropriate to use in a therapeutic setting, because strictly doing energy work on people was not what people were really looking for. And as a therapist, I had to be very careful about touch and being in people's space. So in 2006, miraculously, Spirit sent a little pamphlet onto my desk about EFT. And I went to New York City and I spent a weekend studying with someone there whose work I did for many years. He was the first tapper that I worked with, and his name just right went out of my head. Sorry about that. So I've been a tapper ever since, and I have found it to be, for me, the perfect blend of talking, as in talk therapy, because we identify the problem. We talk about how it feels in our body. We talk about our thoughts about it. We might talk about a little history around it. And then we get to work in the energy field through tapping to move that energy and discharge it, collapse the emotional charge, discharge the old stuck negative energy, along with the belief systems. Thanks, Linda. Got my hair cut yesterday from the body. And it was like I say, there was like this angelic choir that went off when I first was had the opportunity to see someone do EFT. And I was like, oh my God, that is the perfect blend of talk therapy and using the work of the energy in the energy body. And so I came to EFT, 14 years ago now. And it has been my go-to modality ever since. I do a lot of other things, but tapping is far and above my favorite way to really help people go deep into healing and really shift the old energy beliefs, the energy beliefs and the old patterns and the subconscious patterns and those where we've dug those neural pathways that keep us sort of reactive and repeating old patterns. So far and away, tapping is really one of the best things that I have learned. And for me and for my clients, after I learned it, I went through a very major transformation in my own life. I left my paid employment. I opened a healing center. As I said, I went through ministerial school, and I left my, at that point, 29-year marriage the home that I had lived in for 20 years. And I left my kids there to stay with their dad. I left my dogs. I left my 2,500 square foot house, and I moved into a 200 square foot room with a twin bed and a dresser, pretty much. And, you know, my clothes and personal belongings, but pretty much everything I had accumulated and, you know, created with my, you know, then husband over 30 years, I sort of walked away from. So at 52, I went through a major transition. And I can honestly say that tapping at that time is the thing that I credit the most with getting me through. I mean, I had a lot of spiritual practices, but boy, I tapped till I was, you know, black and blue sometimes, really just trying to keep myself emotionally grounded, not freaking out about money, not freaking out about having my, you know, being with my kids, which of course was probably the most difficult aspect of all of that. I'm thankful to say that, you know, years later, I have a wonderful relationship with my kids. And so anyway, looks like people are here. So with that bit of history, so tapping has been called acupuncture without needles. We, as I said, we talk, we identify an issue through something called the setup phrase, and then we tap through different points, which are actually acupuncture points. So they're places on the surface of the body, usually quite bony, so that we can activate the center that's there, the meridian. These are the beginning and endings of the different meridians. Meridians are the invisible, the subtle lines of energy that run through our body and animate us and keep us alive. It's where spirit flows. It's, you know, where the energy flows. And each major organ in the body, the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the liver, the central nervous system, the brain, all have their own meridians. There are 12 different lines that run through the body, and they share beginning and ending points. Not all of them, but, you know, 2 or 3 might start here or end here or something. So EFT was sort of streamlined. In the beginning, there was tapping all over the place and, you know, spitting nickels and standing on your head, and it was all a little crazy. But Gary Craig, Henry Grayson is actually the name of the doctor that I studied with. His name just popped into my mind, so forgive me, Henry, for forgetting your name. But Gary Craig is the fellow. He was an engineer who learned tapping and sort of streamlined it. So it's from Gary Craig that we get these primary tapping points that pretty much will overhaul our entire energy system. We don't have to tap the thousands of points that acupuncturists, you know, might use to put needles into the muscle, into the deeper tissue. So with that being said, I'm just going to start tapping if I'm tapping with one person in particular, I will identify what we're tapping on, and I will ask them specific questions like about their physical body, their mental body or their thoughts, and their emotional body, what they're feeling. So in the physical, I might ask them where they feel that in their body. You know, sometimes it's in the throat, the chest, the belly, the head, the back of the neck, right? So I try to bring in all 3, mind, body, spirit. What's going on physically, what thoughts are connected that we haven't already talked about, and what emotions are present. And so I call that sort of the tapping triangle, right? I always want to include those 3 aspects. I may not do that as much tonight because I don't have that specific information from anyone. I may make it up. I mean, I've done these enough that I generally know where people are feeling different emotions and different issues in their bodies. But anyway, I just wanted to give you the idea of how I would generally do it if I was working one-on-one with someone, or if we were like in a Zoom call and I had a chance to talk with you and sort of get more information. But this format doesn't really allow for that too much because it's hard to read the comments as they're scrolling. So I'm just going to focus, as I said, on where sort of the intersection of some of these issues that people identified were. So we're going to look at self-esteem, trusting yourself and others, trusting life, trusting change, and how all of that relates to fears around showing up in the world, about bringing our gifts into the world. I've been working on some guided imageries and journaling questions around discovering our divine purpose and our limiting beliefs. So this all fits in with sort of what I've been working on for a good part of the day today. So without further ado, let's start tapping. And when we tap, and you can tap along with me, even if I'm not talking about your specific issue, please know that there is still benefit. There's something in tapping called borrowing benefits. And just by virtue of tapping on the points, you're calming down the amygdala, you're turning down the dial on your anxiety or your fight or flight response, and you're changing the chemistry of the energy that's running through your body. So even if it's not your issue in particular, there's still plenty of benefit to be had. So I'm going to start with the setup phrase, which we do as we're tapping here on the side of the hand. It doesn't matter which hand you tap on. This is in some places called the karate chop spot for obvious reasons. And here's where we really make the statement and tell the universe and tell our mind what it is that we're working on. So we make a statement about the problem or the truth, and then we make a statement of acceptance, and you'll hear what that is in a moment. So even though I struggle with self-esteem and don't always trust myself and my inner knowing, here's the acceptance. I deeply and completely love and accept myself and all of my feelings. Even though I don't always trust myself, my inner knowing, and I don't always trust others, I'm open to the possibility of trusting again, trusting myself, trusting others, to be able to love myself and to love others. And I deeply and completely love and accept myself and all of my feelings. Even though it feels scary for me sometimes to allow myself to be fully seen, to stand in my light, to be my true, authentic self with all my gifts, with all my talents, and with all my quirks. I choose to let myself be seen and bring my gifts and my love into the world. And I deeply and completely love and accept myself and all of my feelings. Sometimes it's challenging to feel good about myself, to feel self-confident, to feel self-assured, to love or even like myself. That hasn't always been easy in my life. I've received messages through the years that maybe I'm not valued. Maybe my emotions weren't appreciated. Maybe my desires or my preferences didn't fit in with my family values or norms. Under your arm, there's so many ways as we grow up that our unique selves, that my unique self wasn't always appreciated. Got messages that I wasn't enough, good enough, smart enough, quiet enough, pretty enough. So many ways that we can be told that we're not enough. So many ways that our sense of ourselves, our value, our worth can be undermined. And that can result in a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-confidence, or even some self-loathing or hatred we can learn, we can be taught that we're not lovable by families that aren't able to show us love and acceptance and approval and care unconditionally. Sometimes it was there, but always with a condition. If I behaved a certain way, or I didn't ask for too much, or if I was quiet and compliant. But if I spoke up, or even if I just acted like a kid, if I was noisy or maybe silly, or if I did something I shouldn't have done, there were so many messages that I wasn't okay. I may have been punished. I may have been punished by the silent treatment, by the withdrawal of love from my parents or my caretakers. I may have been punished verbally by being called names or told I wasn't good enough or to keep my mouth shut. Or maybe there was other kinds of abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, or just neglect. Neglect, when it happens over time, can be just as damaging as outright abuse. Messages that you're not important, that my feelings don't matter, that my hopes and dreams are stupid, that I really need to go along with what other people's idea of my life is. And that if I wanted to step out on my own path and shine my own gifts, I would be criticized or judged or worse. And so I find myself at this point in my life still struggling with my self-esteem, still struggling with trusting myself, because I was given messages, subtly and not so subtly, that I was not trustworthy, that the things that I said weren't true, or that my feelings weren't accurate. They were my feelings. If I didn't know how I was feeling, how would anybody else know? But I got the messages that it wasn't okay to trust myself, because when I tried to speak up, or when I told the truth, I was often told that I was wrong or bad, or that I didn't know what I was talking about. And so the dial on my self-trust got turned down very low. And because of that, because my intuition was almost snuffed out, because the dial, the volume on my inner voice was turned down so low, and the fear of being myself, of speaking up, of asking questions, of having an opinion, of making a request was so strong that I stifled myself, to the point that I made choices and decisions that didn't serve me, because I didn't have access to my inner knowing, to my inner GPS, to that compass connected to spirit that could guide me through life in the highest way. And so each time I made a decision or a choice that ended up in something negative or bad happening, I blamed myself. And I began to believe that I really wasn't worthy, or I really wasn't valuable, or I really didn't know what I was doing, or didn't have the ability to make decisions for myself. It's a really difficult thing when we grow up without the validation that we're loved and lovable, that our feelings matter, that our hopes and dreams are valid, and that our childlike innocence and curiosity should be celebrated and not punished. So here I am at this time in my life, wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard, wanting to love and be loved, wanting to feel better about myself, to trust myself and feel confident in myself and feel good about how I show up in the world. And it's important for me to give myself permission to be authentically me, to remind myself that no one is going to punish me now, that no one is going to withdraw their love or abuse me, because I've grown up and now I can use my words. Now I can speak up for myself. Now I can choose to trust myself and my intuition and my inner knowing, and know when something doesn't feel right. And I can set boundaries and stand in my truth. It's important for me to hold myself and the younger parts of me with deep compassion and understanding for how I developed the patterns and the programs that are still running inside of me. They came from a place of pure survival in order to survive and live as comfortably as possible in the family systems, in the culture that I grew up in. I had to adapt and adjust. And in that adapting and adjusting, I may have taken on behaviors and beliefs that really don't serve me. And so I can recognize that the things that protected me as a child may be holding me back as a grown woman. They may be preventing me from the very things that I want the most. Deep connection with myself and others. Deep love for myself and others. Absolute trust in myself and discernment when it comes to others, so that I can show up in the world fully me, fully present, fully confident, and fully connected to my intuition and my inner knowing. So let's just come on back here for a moment. And I'll just allow you a little bit of time to let that energy settle, to breathe into all of that. And if you would be kind enough to let me know how that was for you. I know I clearly took it in a direction. I wasn't sure exactly where I was going to go, but that's, as you can see, I don't sit and try to think of the words. They just sort of roll through. And when I'm on a roll, I just let it roll. But I would love to hear from you as to how that felt, whether those words, I'm going to check my computer too, maybe I can see better there. how that felt, whether any of it resonated with you, whether it didn't feel like what you had in mind. So go ahead, let me know what's up with you. Or even if you have a specific question about tapping or anything that came through during that tapping, don't be shy, because I'd like to do a second round, and it would really help me to know great how it landed for you. If I'm, aw, sweetie, right here, I gotcha. So Susan saying she felt stronger with each pass. Linda was saying she was feeling emotional. I'm going to see if I can read all of what Dee has written, because it's not all showing up on my phone, but I'm going to see if I can pull it up on my computer. Don't apologize for bringing through what's right. I've always enjoyed EFT work. Sometimes it brings up interesting memories. Yes, I mean, that's one of the reasons I love this, because we can start somewhere just with a problem or with a feeling without really necessarily knowing like where it comes from, right? We don't have a specific memory, and tapping can often allow something to sort of be released and come to the surface. I have one memory, very strong memory in particular. Sometimes in the morning, if I just feel out of sorts, maybe I had a dream that I don't remember. I don't often remember my dreams, but some mornings, you know how you just wake up and you're just a little out of sorts. And so I learned that if I just tapped on, even though I'm feeling out of sorts and I don't even know why, I deeply and completely love and accept myself and all of my feelings, right? Even though something just feels out of balance this morning and I don't know what it is, I'm open to knowing, and I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And so I did something like that one morning, and all of a sudden, you know, an image of my brother who passed a number of years ago came into my mind, and I realized, oh my gosh, it's Ed's birthday. And I hadn't really been consciously aware of it, but clearly I was energetically feeling it or responding to it, because as I was tapping, the tears were coming, his image came to mind, and I had, you know, that moment of, oh my gosh, you know, it's October 26th, it's Ed's birthday. And once I had that recognition and tapped through it a little bit, you know, the tears settled down, and I felt much more balanced and aligned. And so yes, it can reveal things to us that are under the surface. Yeah. So Rosa, everything you said, every word you used was applicable to me. I feel quite emotional, choked up right now. You are quite gifted. I feel this in my chest rather strongly. My heart and my heart chakra, both front and back. Beautiful. I'm so glad, Rosa. What I would like to do, because I think I have enough feedback now, is go ahead and do a second round. I don't even know how long the first one was. I suspect this will be a little shorter, but I often do multiple rounds with clients, because very often the first round will bring a lot up and their emotional charge might get even higher, right? And they're like, ah! And I say, don't worry, stay with me, because the more we tap, the more that will start to settle down. So let's go ahead and do that now. And I'm going to do something that's pretty typical in a case like this. So even though I feel a little better, I'm also feeling very emotional, and certain things are bubbling up in me right now, and I deeply and completely love and accept myself and all of my feelings. Thank you, Rosa. Even though I'm not even sure why, I'm feeling quite emotional, and I feel this heaviness in my chest around my heart chakra, all the way through from the front to the back. And I just choose to breathe and tap and continue to release this energy. And I deeply and completely love and accept myself and all of my feelings. Even though I'm not exactly sure what's being stirred up right now, it's clear from how I feel, my emotions and my physical sensations, that energy is moving and something is stirring. And I'm grateful for that. And I choose to release and let go of any memories, any emotions, any beliefs, any trauma that's no longer serving me. And I deeply and completely love and accept myself and all of my feelings. I'm feeling a little better. I'm feeling a little lighter, but also emotional. There seems to be quite a bit going on right now, and I'm not sure what it all is, but I trust my body, and I trust that it's telling me that something is shifting and changing. And so I hold this all very sacred. I hold this all in deep gratitude. I hold this all in trust, trusting that what I'm doing is serving my highest good, trusting that moving the energy and speaking truth to the things that I have experienced in my life, although it may be emotional, is also very healing. I hold all the younger parts of myself in deep love, in compassion, acceptance, approval. I let them know that they didn't do anything wrong, that however they adapted to the circumstances they were in was what they had to do. However they were judged, however I was judged, however I was criticized, however I may have been ridiculed or punished or abandoned, I hold those younger parts of myself in unconditional love. I invite their pain. I invite their emotions. I invite their sadness and their loneliness. I invite their silliness and their childlike innocence all into this space with me now. And I send them a message of unconditional love. And I remind them that that was then, and this is now. And without denying or minimizing or ignoring anything that they experienced or were exposed to, I want them to know now that they're safe and that they're loved. That I won't allow any further abuse, any more judgment, and any more criticism, knowing that I may be the one who's judging or criticizing or not accepting. I take responsibility for all of the ways in which I may have perpetrated neglect, disapproval, lack of acceptance, or an unloving attitude on my younger selves. And so I offer them my deepest apology, recognizing that I may have fallen into the same patterns that were present in my family system growing up. It's really important to recognize that unless and until I bring this all to the surface, I expand my awareness and my knowingness of how I have taken on some of those beliefs and patterns and may have repeated some of those, even in regards to myself. I choose now to be fully aware so that I'm no longer unconsciously compliant, that I'm not unconsciously continuing those patterns of abuse or neglect or judgment or criticism. I choose to come to my heart and to know that every part of me is deeply loved. Every part of me is fully accepted, and every part of me is valued by the source that created me. And I am one with that source, made in the same image and likeness. So I am love. I am light. I am goodness. And those are the messages that I choose to tell myself and all of my younger parts from this moment forward. So once again, just letting that energy settle, feeling into that. Notice anything else that may have come up into your awareness, whether that's more emotions, more feeling bubbling up, or perhaps other thoughts or memories, old belief systems that it's time to let go of. So again, if there are any shares, any thoughts, comments, I'd be curious to see how doing that second round, which again, I had no idea where I was going with that. It would be helpful to know how everybody is doing now. I never want to leave a situation where someone might still be highly activated. So, even if it's just giving me a thumbs up, like you're okay, or more specific words if you want to share, I would appreciate that. I'm not sure if I was hitting the right spot on the arm, Susan, so I'm not sure. So let me just run through them quickly. Set up, top of the head, inside of the eyebrow, outside of the eye, underneath the eye on the bone here, under the nose, under the lip, here on the space in the collarbone, kind of where the lymph nodes are, and the other is under the armpit, 4 miles, 4 miles down, 4 inches down from your armpit. For women, it's really right on the bra line. So that's where it is. Sorry, I wasn't really clear about that, but that's where the points are. But it sounds like you were in the ballpark and that you're doing okay. So that's good to know. Linda, relaxed, tired, grateful. Sounds like your emotions have settled down a little bit, which is very typical in tapping because something comes up to the surface. Awesome. Something comes up to the surface. We discharge, we release some energy, right? There's some catharsis, and then it sort of settles back down. So that's how it works with tapping. That's why I love it. So, all right, my loves, I think this is probably a good place to wrap this up tonight. I'm going to try to get out and get a little walk in before we totally lose the sunlight. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your comments ahead of time so that I had some idea about where to direct this. And obviously, I appreciate your presence and your comments here on the Facebook Live. If you know any other women who you think would benefit from being in this group, please invite them. I'm really relying on everybody sort of sharing right now and letting people know. I'm not doing any active recruiting out there. So the more you can help, spread the word, better it'll be. I appreciate that, and I wish you all a very beautiful evening and rest of your week as we head into Thursday, and I hope to be speaking with you again soon. All right, namaste.